Wowzers, well guys, a very, very good morning. My name's Jonathan Finch, I'm the Strategy Director at Big Presence, and I'm absolutely delighted to be able to show you to the Big Presence studio. This is something that we've been working on for quite a while now, but one of the things that we've wanted to do is help organisations and companies just like yourself to make sure that you're gathering more leads and more inquiries. So grab yourself a brew. I'm going to be back with you in 2 minutes where we're going to be starting the live stream, and I'm going to be talking to you all about how to generate leads and how to generate inquiries utilising the almighty LinkedIn, the platform that we are on. So grab a brew, I'll be back with you in 2 minutes and we'll be getting started. See you in a sec. So if you did go and get a brew, that was a very quick brew. I probably should have said you got about a minute to go and make yourself a cup of tea there, which I hope you've gone and done, or you've got yourself a drink at least. As I mentioned, guys, my name's Jonathan Finch. If you don't know me, I'm the Strategy Director at Big Presence, and at Big Presence, we help organisations generate leads, generate inquiries. We do that in two different ways. First one, we do that and we go in and we help companies from a strategic level. Generating leads and generating inquiries most cost effectively has changed quite a bit. COVID really changed it. We're doing a lot more stuff virtually, and that's where we come in. We go and help with those strategies to make sure that people have got that top of the funnel being filled. We also go in and we help clients on a different basis. We do this as a completely outsourced service. If organizations don't want to generate their own leads and go, do you know what? We're too busy doing our thing over here. We just want you to put meetings in our diaries. That is something else that we can help with. So what are we talking about today? Today, we are going to be talking about all of the wonders of the almighty LinkedIn and how you can do things yourself that will help you to generate some leads and to help you generate some more meetings in your diary. Now, we all know that recession's probably coming. When? Nobody really knows. I don't listen too much of that stuff. But what I can say is if you have a full diary of meetings and a full diary of leads that are coming in, people who are interested in working with you, you'll probably be able to withstand the recession and not have a problem at all. But we're not going to talk too much about that today. We're going to talk about good stuff today, not that stuff. So without further ado, I will just jump onto here. So before we start, guys, there is something that I want to give you, which we've been asked for a lot with clients at the moment. One of the things that we help clients to do to start with is work out how many leads and how many inquiries do they actually have to get into their pipeline to start hitting their revenue targets. Because a lot of the time organizations will come to us and go, we need more leads, and we'll go, well, how many? They go, oh, we're not sure. So one thing that we've put together is the lead gen calculator. It's completely free of charge. I think Andy has just put a link onto the chat. Andy, if not, could you post that again in the chat at the bottom? But if any of you guys want access to this, this is a really useful tool to start with, to start working out how many leads do you need to hit your targets. So there's a link on there, just put your details and information. It'll send over to you. It might take 10, 15 minutes to send over. It isn't instant, but that'll come through to your inbox and then you can start to use that. It is a gift from us, completely free of charge. but he's always the starting point that we work with when we're working with a client. Because if you don't know how many leads and inquiries you're going to need, you can actually have too many, which can cause a bottleneck somewhere else. And we found this with clients before. We've run some campaigns and it's generated 7, 8 inquiries in a day or within a week. And the clients go, whoa, 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 we didn't need that many. So this is a really good starting point. If you are trying to generate more leads, you're trying to get more business in, or you're trying to scale ultimately, this will be a really good tool for you to take. So Andy will put another link in there, or if you scroll to the top of the chat on LinkedIn. Guys, I can't look at Facebook and YouTube comments, unfortunately, at the moment. The software doesn't link in. So if you do want to get involved in this conversation, make sure you head over to LinkedIn, jump to my profile on LinkedIn, and you'll see this live on there. There's a chat on the side. Everybody's getting involved. I can see quite a few messages on there that are coming through. So wonderful to have you all with us. So now you've got yourself a freebie. That's a very good start to the day. You've got something completely free of charge. Get that downloaded. Any feedback on it as well? If there's anything else you want added to it, let us know. But this is the starting point that we use with every single client, so we'll really, really help you out. So let's get started. Now, before we kick off, I want to tell you a quick story. Now, this is my mate, Jeff. Now, Jeff's a pretty cool guy. He's had it for a pretty good day. He's walking back from work, and the sun and the wind are looking down on Jeff, and they're having a bit of an argument. You might have heard this story. So I think it's an Aesop's fable from years ago. Sun and the wind are having a big argument, though. The sun says, do you know what? I reckon I can get Jeff to take his jacket off. And the wind goes, not a chance. I'm the mighty wind. I blow buildings down. You're the sun. You can't do anything there. So the sun goes, go on. You go first then, see if you can get Jeff to take his jacket off. Now, obviously, the sun and the wind can't yell at him. They can't just take the jacket off. They're the sun and the wind. So the wind starts blowing and starts hounding around Jeff, and Jeff gets a little bit cold and he starts to do his zip up. The wind starts blowing an absolute gale at him. He does his buttons up and he's getting himself even colder. He starts walking a bit quicker to try and get home faster. He gets halfway back to his house and the wind goes, do you know what? I don't think I can do this. I am the almighty wind and I blow houses down, but I don't think I can do this one. So the sun says, do you know what? I'm going to have a bit of a go at this. See if I can get Jeff to take his jacket off. So the sun just gently starts warming him up. Jeff's walking along, starts smelling his pits, going, I'm getting a bit more sweaty. I might need to take my jacket off. So he undoes his zip a little bit down. Whew, he's getting a nice day. The clouds are clearing now. Birds are out in the sky. Jeff's got his jacket all the way down. He's flapping himself with it. And eventually, you can probably guess, but Jeff takes off his jacket. Now, the reason I talk to you about this is very much like lead generation on LinkedIn. And I'll talk to you why. You probably had some of these spammy messages recently. Hi, my name's Jonathan from Big Presence. We do lead generation for companies just like yours. Here are 5 reasons you should work with us. Book a link in my Calendly now. Everybody's probably had them. They do my head in. They probably do your head in as well. Now, on the other side of that, you've also got companies that constantly put out good content, really useful things and helpful information to companies all across the world. And that's where the sun comes in. Gently just easing in and easing in and easing in. Now, what I'm not saying here is you don't want to have aspects of the wind, and I'll talk to you in a second why you do definitely want to have aspects of the wind. But we call this the push and pull marketing techniques. So pull is gently pulling people in, putting out organic content, putting out really useful stuff for people to pull them in and make them want to work with you. On the other side, the wind is the push. Now, what I will say is the wind is definitely useful. You do want to make sure that occasionally you are going out to clients. Well, not occasionally, to be honest. We do this consistently. But going out to clients and go, I know that you've been on a few of our resources, you've tuned into a few of our webinars, whatever that thing is it worth us having a conversation? Some clients just need that little nudge and that little push just to get them over the line. So I used to work in an organisation, or 2 different organisations, Business A and Business B. Now, Business A spent all of their time talking about the nice fluffy stuff. I call it the fluffy stuff. Very useful, but the fluffy stuff. Talking about how can we entice clients in? Do we need to change the colour of the website? And doing all of the things you can see on the left. Let me just make that slightly bigger for you so you can see that. Not that, that's me too big. There we go. So you might be able to see that a little bit better there. But Business A spent all of their time on that sort of stuff. Blog building, writing nice posts on LinkedIn. Very, very useful stuff. Brilliant, brilliant strategy. You look at organisations like, let's take Apple for an example. Great one. Apple constantly just put out useful stuff, decent content, and get people to come into them. Bet you've never had a push email off Apple. You might have had a pushy phone call off EE trying to get you to buy the new iPhone, but you won't have had one off Apple. And their branding is solely focused about being better than everybody else and getting everybody to come towards them. Now, on the other side of that, you've got the wind, the push, the people who are pushing out, and the Business B that I used to work in. So Business A, we're solely focused on doing all the nice fluffy stuff and the branding side. Very, very good stuff to do. Second business that I worked in, business B, I tell you what, we were outbound. Inbound, we don't deal with outbound stuff. We are outbound. We're hammering the phones. We're on LinkedIn. We're emailing everybody out. Conference and events company that I work for, we're trying to get business in as much as we can, but by going out to the market. And what I want to ask you, and if you're on the comment section on LinkedIn at the moment, I can see the comment section. I'm struggling to read it because it's quite a way away. But if you are on the comments there, I just want you to put on there, where are you at the moment? Are you business A? Are you business B? But where do you spend most of your time when it comes to lead generation? Because if we're focusing on branding, that is absolutely lead generation. The more branding we do, the more people that know about us, in theory, the more leads and the more inquiries we will get back from that. So just on the chat on LinkedIn, sorry I can't do this on Facebook or YouTube. If you do want to get involved, jump over to my page on LinkedIn where we're live at the moment. Put on there, where are you at the moment? Are you business A or are you business B? I'll give you guys a second to just pull those through and just have a read through those. Might be slightly easier. Apologies, I'd actually prepared a slide just for this this point. So Nick from Delve, I can see that you've come up and just said A. That is one thing I create. Fantastic. Wonderful. Yeah, absolute pleasure to be working with you, Nick. We absolutely love working with you guys. You know that. James, more B for me. Fantastic. Not at all a bad strategy. Not at all. Both of these that we're talking about here, guys, are very good strategies. You know, organizations, big companies make huge amounts of revenue, huge amounts of money, and build entire business models about these strategies and around these things. But what I'm going to try and help you with today, we are very much going to be focusing on one of these elements, and then not next week, the week after, exact same time, we're going to be jumping on LinkedIn, and then we're going to be focusing again on the other side. So I'll run through those in a second. But as I mentioned, really, I mean, this is just a bit of a summary, really. But in the highest growth businesses and the most effective companies that I've worked with, they've had a consistent strategy for both of these things. They focused on going out to the market, asking the market if they want to work with them. But on the other side of things, they've also built a beautiful brand that people are attracted to. People go, I want to work with you. Now, at Big Presence, I mean, our strategy is pretty much 50-50 of this. You'll probably notice I do a huge amount of content on LinkedIn. We put a lot of effort into putting useful things out. And that's one area that we're going to talk about today. If you want to get more revenue out of LinkedIn, you're going to have to improve your personal brand or your business brand to start with. And that's the area that we're going to be focusing on. So not next week, the week after, that's when we're going to be focusing around outbound lead generation, going out to the market, going out to all these wonderful people that we have warmed up and spent all this time and effort on, and asking them, is it worth us having a conversation? Could we get some time in the diary? I'd love to have a chat with you. Can we have a Zoom brew? We love talking about Zoom brews. For anyone trying to do lead gen out there, guys, rather than going, can we have a meeting to try and sell you some stuff? Go, is it possible to have a Zoom brew? We'd love to have half an hour to find out more about such a company. A really good technique. Sounds so much better having a Zoom brew than going, yeah, I want to have a sales meeting with you so I can sell you something, which is ultimately what a lot of these messages say. So, we're going to start by looking at the pull side of this and making sure that we've got a strategy in place. And what I'm going to do today, guys, is I'm going to try and give you a framework that you can use to start generating more content and building that brand on LinkedIn. The reason that we're starting with this area is if you just start going out cold and just start blasting messages left, right, and center, you will get results from it. I mean, you know, everyone's having a go at these messages, these bot messages on LinkedIn that are just firing out that salesy message. These will work. You're going to annoy a lot of people in the process, and you've got to be very careful how you do it. But these things absolutely do work. It's all about your approach to it. And that automation, we use a lot of automation at Big Presence across a lot of different campaigns, but it's knowing when to use the automation that is absolutely key. Automation and personalization, that's the perfect blend where you're going to get the best results. So right, let's start talking about pull. Now, before we go into pull, well, this is about pull actually, but before we start ensuring that we've got the content and we're building that brand for ourselves on LinkedIn and people are starting to recognize what we're about, and I'll give you some really quick and easy tips to do that shortly, we need to understand the basics. Now, people overcomplicate LinkedIn so much. They look at it and there's so much messages going on the feed, and then people are commenting, there's likes, there's hearts you can add now, and people sit there and go, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, so they never get started. And I'm going to simplify this for you. LinkedIn is just a networking event that is 24/7, 365, and all you have to do to go to that networking event, is pick up your phone and log in to LinkedIn. You're now in the room. I'm going to talk to you a bit more about why it's like a networking event. So at a networking event, you've got all these people, as you can see on the screen, all talking to each other, all in different groups. And as they're there, they're all talking about things. The exact same as when someone posts on LinkedIn. Putting a post out there to the room, or a subject out there to the room, which people can come and stand in your group and they can talk to you about. They might not stay in that group forever. They might go and move to a different group, because if your thing's not that interesting, they might come over and just see what it's about. But if it's not that interesting, they'll move somewhere else. Now, what you can probably see happening is that room very quickly gets very noisy. If you've ever been to a networking event, a really good networking event where everybody's absolutely roaring, it's very difficult to hear what's going on. And as you can see on the screen there, it's getting a little bit cluttered. There's so much going on. And this is again where people start scrolling down the feed and start going, oh no, I don't know what to do with this. But to simplify it, it's a networking event. Now, in order for you to get involved in that networking event, the last thing you want to do, which is what a lot of people do on LinkedIn, is be the person stood in the corner watching the network event going on. Because what you're hoping for there is that someone will come over and talk to you. And if you've ever been to a networking event, tip for networking, have a couple of openers when you get there. There's going to be a lot of people there that you don't know. Ask them some questions. Get some ready in your head. How did you get here today? How was your journey here today? Very simple things. Start the conversation off and that'll go from there. But similar on LinkedIn, you're going to have some stuff to talk about, and we're going to go on that in a second. The best thing to do on LinkedIn to start with, if you're new to this and you're trying to increase your brand and your value there, start by getting involved in other people's conversations. As at a networking event, you're going to get those people who go networking every single day of the morning, up at 5 o'clock every morning. I do 5 networking groups every week. Those people are probably going to know other people and they'll be talking to other people. You don't want to be the one to start the conversation to start with. So go and get involved in other people's conversations. So when you're scrolling down the feed and you're seeing all these messages and all this stuff coming up and you're going, I don't know what to do. Pick one of those out there and get involved in that conversation. Post something meaningful on it. Post a question on there about the post, but that will start the conversation for you. The more conversations you start on LinkedIn, we generally see the more conversations, the more leads, the more meetings you get. It's a very, very simple calculation that you're going to do there. But get involved in other people's conversations. Now, once you've started getting involved in other people's conversations, you're probably going to have a little bit more courage, and we'll look at different types of posts that you can do in a second. But again, understanding the basics, don't be scared of LinkedIn. Don't be scared of getting involved in LinkedIn. It is just a networking event. Now, the other thing that I would say is when you go to a networking event, not much business happens on the actual trade floor. It's rare that you go to a networking event and someone goes, yes, that's wonderful. Yes, thank you for telling me about that. I'll order 10 grand's worth of that thing, please. Yes, can you drop that off tomorrow? It doesn't normally happen like that. LinkedIn, absolutely the same as a networking event. It's about introductions. It's about finding those people there that you want to talk to so that you can take it offline. Now, luckily, LinkedIn has this lovely feature, absolutely lovely feature, which will allow you to take that conversation offline. Ultimately, it's called the messaging function. So if you're having a conversation with somebody, just move my screen there, I think it's gone off a little bit. If you're having a conversation with somebody, you can also make sure that you're taking that conversation offline into a private meeting room, as you might do at an event. If you're having a really good chat with someone, you might go, do you want to go and grab a coffee? I'd like to find out a bit more about you. That's what the messaging function is for. And not next week, week after, fortnight today, we're going to talk about doing the outbound stuff. But don't overcomplicate LinkedIn. That is what it's about. Don't be scared of it either, but make sure you are getting involved. Very, very important to get involved. So the first thing that you have to do if you want to get more revenue off LinkedIn is have a look at optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Now, what I've done here is I've put down some very, very simple things that you can start to have a look at on your profile to see if it's really going to attract clients. And the reason that I say this is I look at people's profiles sometimes, and I know this is a very, very simple thing, but they're sat there with the photo, glaring at the screen in this very stern pose. And I'm looking at it going, flipping heck, I'd be a bit scared to have a conversation with that person. Might be when I've jumped on Zoom with them, they're like, hi, how are you? And it's just the face that they've put on for their profile. But first things first, guys, like honestly, if you want to get more leads and you want to get more inquiries through LinkedIn, have a look at your photo. It is amazing how many people, I think, get this wrong. Now, if you have a look at mine, I mean, I've gone through, if anyone's followed me for the last probably 12 months, 24 months, I change my photo quite a lot. Main reason I do it is I like to update it. I like to update it on things I'm doing. Mine's reasonably casual. You know, I'm wearing a baseball cap, but to be honest, if I have a meeting with you, I'm relatively casual anyway, unless we're at a specific event where I've got to wear a suit or something. We're reasonably casual as an organisation, so if we do come to your office, expect me in a black t-shirt. I wear these all the time. It saves me a lot of time in the morning deciding what I'm wearing, but we're quite casual. So it doesn't mean we're casual about our work, but in our dress sense, absolutely. We work from home quite a lot, and I want everybody in the business to be comfortable, myself included. So I wanted to reflect that in my profile picture. I wanted people to know that if I jump on, they're not going to be getting a suited warrior staring at the screen in three-piece with pinstripes and etc. It's not me. So I wanted to reflect that in. The other thing to have a look at as well is your cover photo at the top. Now, you can put as much information as you want in that photo, and that is one of the things that people will see most. So above your photo, you will also have, where it says big presence there, you can put as much information in there as you want. So why not build a little banner and put your website in there, put some information in there. If anyone needs any help building those, get in contact with us. They're relatively easy to build, and we can help with that. But if you want to build something on your banner there, make sure it's got a little bit more information there, specifically about what you do, what do you stand for as a company. That is the first thing at all people are going to see when they jump on. Next thing, headline. Now, I've got a bit of a think about headlines, but headlines, does it actually say what you do? Now, just have a look at your own headlines now. Go onto your own LinkedIn profile and just have a look at your headline and just think to yourself, if I didn't know who this person was, if I got absolutely no idea who they were, looking at yourself, would I understand what they do and what value they could bring to me by getting in contact with them? The reason I say this, have a quick look at mine. I can't read the exact writing on mine. Sorry, my screen's quite a way away. But ultimately, it says we do lead generation. We help you grow your business. We do lead generation. I can't remember the exact wording. Again, there's something else that I changed and I trial quite a bit. But if someone read that headline, saw that photo, and saw your profile at the top, the photo that you've got at the top, does that actually say what you do, what benefit you bring? And sorry, I should have mentioned that. Probably not what you do. Does it talk about what benefit you bring? What the benefit we bring to organizations is we help them scale. Business owners want scale. We can help with that. We help companies grow. That's what we're all about. But does it tell them the outcome that you get from that? And we're talking a bit about features and benefits here, which I won't go into too much. Definitely a full new live that we could touch on that. But does it actually say what you do? I'll give you a second to just have a look at that. If you are struggling with this, send it to someone you know and get them to do a review of it. We've done this before quite a lot of times where you get two people to review it. I send it to someone and go, can you just do me a favour? Can you just give me a review of my profile? What do you think? Does it tell you what I do? Do you like the photo? You put yourself out there a bit, but get some feedback on it. So I'll give you a second to just have a look at that. So hopefully you've had a bit of a look through that. I am storming through this. We'll probably finish today, guys. I'm just thinking probably about, I don't know, we'll be on for about another half an hour, something like that. I think that sounds about right. If anyone's got any questions at the end, I'll make sure I try and jump onto those as well. So next thing to jump onto, finding your audience. Now, this isn't necessarily about outbound, but what it is about starting to do is growing your network with the people that you want in there. Now, this is different for everybody. Everybody uses LinkedIn differently. Everyone uses it very differently, and that's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong in what I'm talking about here. These are just the tips and tricks that we do to help organizations and help our clients, but also do ourselves to grow. We've grown very, very quickly as a business. We're, 8-9 months old now. There's 5 of us in the team, and we're growing very, very quickly. But a big part of that has been through the things that I'm talking to you about here. The key is consistency, and I'll go home on that in a bit because I'm mad on the consistency that you need to do. Next thing here then, sorry, to get back to what I was talking about, finding your audience. So the first thing that you need to do is decide who you want to have in that network and to start filling your networking group. Remember when we talked about this is just a networking group that you're pretty much creating here. You want the right people in that networking group. You want the right people in there so that when you're talking about whatever it is you do, whatever value you bring to the sector, it's to the right people. If I, for example, filled my network and filled my connections on LinkedIn with finance directors, we're probably not going to get much response from them, or health and safety people. We're probably not going to get huge amounts back from that. The reason is that the key job titles that want to speak to me, that want to speak to my team and all of us here at Big Presence, are pretty much your managing directors. They want growth. Business owners, they want to grow their business and they need some help in that particular department. Sales directors, I've got my sales team, but I want some more leads. I want some more inquiries. Occasionally marketing as well, obviously get involved. A lot of what we do blends in with marketing. We pretty much sit between marketing and sales. So marketing's a big one for us as well. But I spend most of my time making sure that I have the right people in that network, because otherwise I'm putting out all of this time and effort and all of this content to people that aren't really going to find it useful, and that's not going to be good for anybody. It's going to get you very down to start with, because you're going to be putting all this effort in, not necessarily seeing a return. So first thing we need to do is use the search bar. Now, if you jump onto the search bar, you can do this now while you're talking to me. If you've got two screens, put it on a separate screen or just merge them to the side. But first thing to do, have a jump onto there. Click on the search bar and start looking at the audience. Click on the people. Sorry, let me take it back a step. Go on there and type in the sorts of job titles that you want to be going for. Now, normally what I do here, we probably haven't got time this morning. I'm sure you guys are going to be very busy and want to be kicking off for work very shortly. So I'm going to keep this as sweet and as short as I can. But I'd normally do something here about target audience, and we'll touch on that another day. Who are you trying to target to bring into your funnel? But the easiest way to do this, really quick, simple, have a think of the last three deals that you did as a business, and think about what the job titles were and the sectors where they came from. Because you can probably guess, I mean, we use huge amounts of data to actually find this stuff for clients. We can look through all of their CRM and actually give them some analysis on this to help them for the next clients. But a really simple way is to look at your last three deals that you did. Were they with health and safety managers? Were they with finance directors? Were they with operations directors? Whatever those job titles were, put that name into the search bar. So if it was finance directors, put finance directors in there. Managing directors, put managing directors in there. So once you've done that, it's going to come up with a big old list. And again, everyone looks at this and goes, that's too many people. And you're right, well, it'll come up with millions of people, because what it'll do is it'll find, absolutely everybody with that job title on LinkedIn. So if you're doing this as we're going along, I'll just give you a second to do that. So once you've done that, then click on people, because this is where it's going to help you to start narrowing down on those people and making sure that you're defining that target audience. Now, if anyone has got LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can do this to you can really niche down on this, and you can find people within your postcode with 5 miles of where you are with a certain job title in a certain industry. Go a lot deeper into this. But for this, if you haven't got that, you can use this for the moment. But what I would recommend is, if you're consistently going to be doing outreach, if you look at Sales Navigator, you can get a lot more targeted on that audience and also get some more outreach stuff, which I'll talk about at the time. But yeah, once you've done that, you can get first, second, and third connection. Now, for anyone who doesn't understand this, I'll give you a quick run through. First connection is very simply me and a person. So if I'm connected directly to a person, so say for example, I'll take Andy, my business partner. So if I'm connected to Andy, Andy is one of my first connections. He's someone in my network that's agreed to connect with me. A second connection would be someone that Andy's connected with, but I'm not. So it's a second connection because I'm connected to Andy, and then it's a second connection, they're connected to Andy. So connected through there. Then a third connection is exactly the same, but it wouldn't be Andy. If Andy was connected to Annabelle, then Annabelle was connected to Danny. That's how it would sort of go through. So a third connection would be someone that knows someone that knows someone that you know. I think I've got that right. Yeah, but that's what the connections are here. So what you probably want to be looking at doing here is probably searching second or third connections. The main reason being, those are people outside your network at the moment that you don't already know. First connections are obviously people within your network, and very useful. We'll talk about those another time, but not necessarily for this part of what we're talking about here. So you want to click second and third connections on there. You can then start to do some other stuff, and you can start having a look down locations. So for me, for example, I mean, I do quite a lot of work around Lancashire. I've got a very good network around here. I know quite a few people in the business community. So I do a lot of searching around there. Sometimes I go further afield, might have a look at Manchester. We also have clients in London, so we focus down there sometimes as well. But have a look at the location side as well. Now, once you've gone through these, the only other one that I'd say to have a look at is you do have a section which says all filters on there as well. Current company is probably not as useful, but all filters is a really useful one because you can start going down and having a little bit more of a look at industry and some of the things like that that are on there. So when you're niching down on the audience to make sure you've got the right people, that's a really useful tool for you. Again, if you do upgrade to Sales Navigator, really, really useful because you can niche down on these so much more. There's so many more criteria that you can filter people by and get a lot more specific on that target audience. But if not, don't worry, you can use this. So once you found your audience, very, very simply, go down and connect with them. You don't have to put a message with this. I find, to be honest with you, that unless it's a very personalized message, as in, "Hi Andy, saw that post you did the other day on lead generation, absolutely loved it, I'd like to connect," which is a very, very personalised message. Andy knows I've written that myself. It doesn't really add any value to actually type out the messages. So go down that and connect with the people that you want to. Second connections, you'll get more of those because you've obviously got a connection in common. But thirds as well, you'll also get some back from there as well. So moving on from there, once you've started doing that, what I'd recommend is just going through this and doing like 25 a day. You know, actual people that you would like to connect with, you'd like to sell, you'd like to work with. I'd probably say more than sell to, because you're not jumping on this to sell. What you're hoping is that these people will be brought into your networking event. Then as you start posting content and starting conversations at your networking event on LinkedIn, these people are going to start being attracted to coming over and having a conversation. Most of the clients that we have now, and a huge proportion of the clients that we've got, are people that I met on LinkedIn or that have seen us on LinkedIn. If you're a massive networker and you actually go out networking, also having a network on LinkedIn is brilliant. People see at the networking event and they see on LinkedIn. And what we're trying to do here, all of this is about building familiarity with our target audience. So I'll say that again. We're trying to build familiarity with our target audience. One for you to write down there, that's a really useful phrase to keep thinking about when you're doing this stuff. So yeah, go down, connect with 25 people a day. It doesn't take long to do this. Really doesn't take long at all. You're talking 5-10 minutes, if 5 minutes, if that, every morning. But if you do this every single day, think about it. You give out 25 connection requests. You might get 50% of those responding and agreeing to connect with you. Out of that 50%, that's 12 and a half or 13 people that you've got that now see your content. You start doing that over time. I was about to say how many that was a week, and I realised I'm not bright enough to work that out. But if you do that over a sustained period of time, it's going to increase your connection base. And this is how, you know, when you look at people on LinkedIn and go, flipping heck, they're doing really well. It's because they've continually increased their connections over time. So guys, if you do have any questions, if you just drop them into the chat, I'll try and jump onto them at the end. Again, it's a bit difficult to read them from over here, but I will try and jump onto those at the end. So once you've found your audience and you've started growing that network, you will start seeing more interactions on your posts and more interactions what you're doing. It's just logic. More people at your networking event on LinkedIn, the more people you're going to get commenting and liking on your stuff. The more people you get commenting and liking on your stuff, the more organic inquiries you're going to get in for your business. It's very, very simple as that. Now, the next part we're going to talk, this is actually pull, sorry, it's not push, but we're going to design some posts. I got this one right. Design some posts. Yeah, so the first thing we need to think about here, this is I put push, but it's probably actually a pull here, so just ignore that. It's a pull thing, this, but we're going to design some posts and some content out there. So when people design posts and they think, do you know what, I'm going to type a message out onto LinkedIn and I'm going to post it there on there, I think they often get this wrong. And it's not because they are bad people. It's because they just haven't had this bit of advice which will help you turn it into something that's going to be useful. So the first thing that we do when we start looking at content for LinkedIn, and me specifically, is I'll start thinking, who am I targeting this content towards? Because again, if I start talking about stuff like, I don't know, about, let me think, if I start talking about finance, and I'm putting posts out about finance and I'm trying to appeal to sales directors, it's probably not going to be useful for them. We're not going to get much response. So whenever we have a look at doing campaigns on LinkedIn and I look at what posts I'm going to be putting out, I think of a theme behind this and who I'm trying to target. Now, if I'm trying to target, for example, managing directors, what sort of things are they going to find useful? Because I think we're very good at what we do at Big Presence. I have a lot of information in my head that would help a lot of people with lead generation and would help them. We're very good at going in and helping them with strategies and helping them generate leads. So if I give some of that information out, I'm not talking about giving all of it out, they can have it all if they want. People will still come to us and want us to do it externally. It doesn't affect our revenue by doing this. But if I give out tips and I give out tricks of things that they can use and things that they can do, they're going to be attracted to my profile. They're going to want to see more of my stuff, and they're going to get more engaged in it. And this is how we build our content profile. So for this campaign as an example, and I'll talk about this as a campaign because a lot of what we do is talking about individual campaigns. But if I said, do you know what, Andy, this week I'm going to target managing directors, and I'm going to make sure that we're getting some interest from managing directors. I think about what sort of things they'd want to talk about. Now, if I talked about tactics here for getting leads and getting inquiries, you know, things you can put in your emails, copy, probably not going to be that interested. What they will be interested in is knowing that I know about the strategy when it comes to LinkedIn, and I can help build strategies, because as a leader of a business, managing director or CEO, that sort of level, you want to be talking about strategy. You're looking at the big picture all across the business. So that's the sort of thing that I'll talk about there. Now, the third thing there, why will it be memorable? What is it about this thing that is going to be memorable to that person? Because again, what I'm trying to do here, subconsciously, I'm trying to get people to associate lead generation with big presence. That's what I'm trying to do here. Now I'm doing that, like I say, subconsciously. I'm trying to get this information out as we're gently. I'm not pushing it out to people, which is where people, you know, take the wind and start pushing it at people. But you create a post that is focused around solving a particular problem for somebody. So let me just see if I can pull up here. I'll try and pull up my LinkedIn page, and I'll show you. We'll design a post now that we can put out to people. So let me just see if I can pull over onto here. Wonderful to start my post. So again, I am struggling slightly to see, so there's some spelling errors and things in here. Please forgive me. But one of the things that works quite well is to use the technique of using 3 things or 5 things. So let's have a look at this. 3 things you can do as a business leader to increase your leads and inquiries. Now, the key here, as I said before, if I just put the first one here, number 1, contact big presence, people are going to go, it's a sales pitch, I'm not that interested. So I have to give some useful information here. So I'm thinking to myself, if I was going to speak to a managing director and said 3 things that you need to do to increase your lead generation to the business, what would my first step be? 1, ensure your team have time aside specifically for lead gen activities and building your network. 1 tip there. 2 tips. I'm hoping this is actually working. I can just see that there's some writing on the screen. So number 2. Number 2, ensure you're constantly creating and launching great content that your audience, might be a spelling error there, audience will find useful. Third tip there would be have a funnel in place that has been designed and automated for you. So I've written my post there. I'm about to launch this now. Again, great thing to do at the moment. You'll probably see posts on LinkedIn seem to do a lot better if they have photos with them as well. It's gone a little bit Instagram, which is absolutely fine, but I'd probably add a photo on there as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to this post, but again, I normally put something with my face on it. Now, this isn't about being vain. It's again, I want people to associate my face with lead generation, so that if they have a challenge in lead generation, they come to us. This is a sort of osmosis effect that we're trying to do with people. The final one that I'd say here again, why will it be memorable? One of the things that I'd always like to put on the bottom would be something like, what's your biggest tip to generate leads and inquiries? And then a hashtag underneath it, hashtag big presence, something like that. Now, that's probably not the greatest post that I've ever written, but you will see the sort of idea behind it. I'm trying to put here and start conversations with people who are going to find this sort of stuff useful. It will appeal to them. It doesn't necessarily say they mean to buy from us, but I'm trying to be memorable to them. I want them to remember me, because the odds are everybody that I know on LinkedIn at the moment won't have an issue with lead generation. Some people will have issue in operations, some will have an issue in marketing. I think every business owner has always constantly got a challenge that they're working on. But by utilising this methodology that we're talking about here, it will mean that if they do have a problem in the future with lead gen, I want to be the first person that they get in contact with. I want to make sure that they come to us and speak to us about lead gen. I think we're very good at what we do, and I'd rather they came to us than to somebody else. So that's a bit of an overview as to how I would go about writing a post, something like that. We talked about 3 different things there. Who would this be relevant to? Managing directors, business leaders. Talked about that at the start. How? Let's talk about something posts about lead generation strategies. Again, we're talking about that top level stuff. And why will it be memorable? The main reason that I'm trying to make it memorable here is at the bottom, the question. If they get involved in it, it will be memorable. The other thing that I'll say is that a lot of the inquiries that we get, clients get in contact with us through LinkedIn or through the website, and they say, it was a post you did a few weeks ago that just really hit home with me. And these are people who might have been following me for 6 months, but it was one post that I did that really hit home with them. And then from that, they got in contact with us. So moving on. So that's a little bit about how we'd put that post together. Like I said, I'd also add a photo in it. I might add some little emojis instead of the numbers on just to make it a little bit prettier, but then I get that out. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So any questions on that? I can just about make out the comments on this. So if anyone has got any questions on anything that we're talking about today, get involved. I'll try and whip through these at the end just before we finish. Okay, so we've gone through that slide. That's absolutely fine. So what I've put together here is just a little bit more. Let me just make that slightly bigger. Not my face, flipping out, I didn't mean to make that bigger. But the different types of posts that you can do. Because when you're putting content out, I sort of have a look at different people's on the feed, different people's content. I try and put it in groups in my own head. So these are the different types of posts that when I look at the feed, you mainly see most of. Let's start with PR. Public relations, good news stories, telling you about what we're doing. We've just signed this contract. We've just moved into a new office. Good stuff, PR. Great idea to have out. Really good to have consistent content from that. Number 2, emotional. You're probably seeing a lot more of these on LinkedIn at the moment. A little while ago, there wasn't as much on this. LinkedIn was very much a job searching site and we all wore suits and ties. Not as much anymore. There's a lot of emotional posts on there. I share a lot more things. Obviously, we've had a baby. I share a lot more about some things I struggle with that. That's, for me personally, but also I think it gets other people, it hits home with other people, which I think is really really good. LinkedIn is definitely more than just a business networking site now. It's a social networking site really across a lot of different things. Controversial posts, seeing a lot of those. Some people build an entire brand about being controversial. You can't put a post up without them being controversial about it. One tactic, it does quite well, but again, it's not definitely my style. Next one, top one, you can probably see value add. Add value to people's networks, add value to what they're doing. That's what we base most of our stuff around. Hopefully what we're doing today here, we're adding value. It's a LinkedIn Live adding value for you. Next one on there as well, discussion post. Asking that question at the end of it. Really, really good to get a discussion going. Final one I'll talk about, and this is a really good one for getting that emotion in there, but it's stories. If you can write something that is an engaging and useful story on there, stories are phenomenal for getting people to remember you and to listen to you and to think about you and to be able to recall something you said. We found this before, and there's been studies done around this, that when I've run training sessions in the past, I've sat there and I've given them a load of stats and a load of information, and I've gone, can anyone remember the stats at the end of the session? Everyone goes, one person in the group who's normally, the really smart one who's like, this stat, this stat, this stat, this stat. The rest of the group can't remember it. You go, can you tell me that story that I told you at the end, at the start of the session? Yeah, and they can recite it word for word, the story, what happened in it, the characters in it, etc. So stories are brilliant if you want to be memorable. So guys, we'll be coming up to a wrap very shortly, actually. I think we're not far off finishing. I'm conscious that we've just gone past sort of 9:15 and you guys will all have day jobs. I'm thinking hence because you're on here, or if not, you might be wanting to go on the job hunt. But I'll just give you some tips, really. These are 3 of my sort of biggest tips I think I'd say for you. But step 1, engage with your audience at a set time. If anybody follows me, if anyone's connected to me on LinkedIn, I post every morning, pretty much. I might miss the odd one, I'm not perfect. But I post every morning. It's normally about 8:15. That means for most of the people who have a set routine for LinkedIn, I do. I jump on LinkedIn normally about 8:30, have a bit of a scroll through. For people who jump on, they consistently see me on their feed at the same time. Probably not going to be relevant to the ones who are logging on in the afternoon. My post might still be going at that point. but consistently try and find a time that you can constantly post. Now, if to start with you're going, this is going to be really difficult, just post once a week. Post once on a Monday. Start getting a bit of traction from that, and then going, do you know what? I'm also going to do Wednesday. But down to my next thing here, consistency is absolutely key when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's no good posting doing one post. I didn't really get any traction off that, so I didn't do any more. You're going to have to do this consistently over time, and you're not immediately going to be able to see the gains from it. What I will show you is, not next week, the week after, in a fortnight, I will show you some of the quick wins and things that you can do to go from what you're doing here, implementing this stuff that we're talking about here, but then also touching on the other side of this and going outbound as well, because there is some really quick wins that you can get on here. But please, consistency is absolutely key. Don't set off on this and then just do it for a couple of weeks. Put some time in your diary. I mean, I have every morning in my diary LinkedIn content for half an hour. I scroll LinkedIn, I create some content for it, useful things that I can push out to my network. Finally, don't overcomplicate it. When you get struggle, you know, I do the same with LinkedIn. I stare at it and go, we need to generate some leads. What am I going to do? But don't overcomplicate it. It's a networking event. That's all it is. It is a networking event that has been designed online 24/7, 365. All you've got to do is log in to get there. So that's all from me today, guys. But what I will say again, if you just logging in towards the end of this and you do want to start generating more leads and generating more inquiries, the lead gen calculator that we've created, we use this as a starting point with every single client that we work with. This is literally the starting point of pretty much any campaigns. We're going to be running this through on a lot of account management meetings this week and next week with clients, because we want to be working out exactly, based on your revenue target, how much you're trying to do in revenue, how many leads do we need to create down at this end? And this is a very simple tool to do that. There's a QR code there. You can scan that if you want to do it on your phone. Drop your details in, we'll send that over. It's not immediate. It comes through in about 15-20 minutes. Don't know why, something we need to work on, but it takes 15-20 minutes to come through. But once you've got that, feel free to have a play with it. Again, any feedback at all, please give me a shout. Well, guys, I hope that has been useful for you. I've really enjoyed this. I'm sure you know from my past, I absolutely love doing these sorts of sessions. So big thank you for everybody for tuning in and everything that I can see on the comments. I will try and make sure that the next one is a little bit more, I can say, engaging as well, so that I can see you guys in the comments that are coming through, because I do want to be able to interact with you, but probably just need to work on a little bit more tech for next time. If you speak to my other half, she'll go, you don't need any more tech. You've bought enough stuff to sort this out. But guys, that is all from me. A massive thank you for tuning in today. Have an incredible week. Go and implement some of the stuff that we've talked about. I promise this will start making some real gains for you. But that's all from me today. My name's Jonathan Finch at Big Presence, and a big thanks for tuning in to Big Presence Live. Speak to you soon.